I've always loved the ocean. Its vastness, the rhythm of its waves, and the way it seemed to stretch into forever. All of it called to me. But after what happened that night, I can't set foot on a beach without the hair on my neck standing on end. It started as a spontaneous decision. My friends and I had spent the day lounging on the sands of Clearwater Beach, soaking up the sun and riding the waves. Soaking up the sun and riding the waves. As the evening drew near, everyone packed up and headed back to the rental house. Everyone except me. The sunset was too beautiful to leave behind. The orange and pink hues reflected off the water, turning it into a rippling canvas of light. I told them I'd catch up later and decided to take a solitary walk along the shoreline. The beach emptied as darkness fell. The only sounds were the soft lapping of the waves and the occasional cry of a distant seagull. Didn't mind the solitude. In fact, I relished it. With the moon rising high and casting a silvery glow, I felt a rare kind of peace, but then I saw it. At first, I thought it was just a trick of the light, a dark shape in the distance, standing perfectly still at the water's edge. As I walked closer, the figure became clearer. A man dressed in what looked like old-fashioned clothes, staring out at the horizon. He didn't move, even as the waves crashed against his legs. At first, I thought it was just a trick of the light, a dark shape in the distance, standing perfectly still at the water's edge. As I walked closer, the figure became clearer. A man, dressed in what looked like old-fashioned clothes, staring out at the horizon. He didn't move, even as the waves crashed against his legs. "Hey!" I called out, more out of curiosity than concern. "You okay?" He didn't respond. He didn't even flinch. I slowed my pace, unease creeping in. Something about him felt wrong. His silhouette was unnaturally rigid like a statue, and his head was tilted at an odd angle, as if he were listening to something I couldn't hear. Still nothing. I stopped a few yards away, my heart thudding in my chest. The air felt heavier, colder. I noticed something strange about the sand around him. It was dark, almost black, as if the earth itself had been burned. The waves that touched his legs didn't foam or ripple, they seemed to vanish, swallowed up by the darkness surrounding him. And then he turned. His face was wrong, that's the only way I can describe it. His features were blurred like a smudged painting, and his eyes, they were empty. Not black, not hollow, just empty, as if whatever had once been inside him was long gone. I stumbled back, my breath catching in my throat. The figure took a step toward me, and the sand beneath his feet hissed and sizzled. I turned and ran, my bare feet slipping on the damp shoreline. The sound of my own ragged breathing filled my ears, but over it I could hear something else. A low, guttural whisper that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. I didn't look back. I couldn't. When I reached the spot where the beach met the dunes, I collapsed, gasping for air. My legs burned, and my mind raced, trying to make sense of what I'd seen. For a moment, everything was silent except for the pounding of my heart. Then I heard it. A single, wet footstep behind me. I whipped around, but there was no one there. Just the endless stretch of sand and the dark, restless ocean. I didn't wait to see if the figure would follow me. I sprinted up the dunes and didn't stop until I reached the house. My friends laughed when I told them what happened, chalking it up to too much sun or an overactive imagination. But when I went back the next morning to prove I wasn't crazy, the spot where the figure had stood was still there. A charred patch of sand, surrounded by perfectly untouched beach. I don't go near the ocean anymore, but sometimes, late at night, I hear the sound of waves outside my window, even though I live miles from the shore. And in those moments, I can feel it. The same heavy, cold air pressing against my chest, and the faint whisper of something I hope I never understand.